TVA rivers and the TVA dams provide a great benefit with hydropower that's very low cost. But in the TVA region, we have about 64% of our power comes from coal-fired plants. And coal-fired plants have been the cheapest overall for many, many years, but the future may change. The environmental restrictions, the air quality standards, things like that may change, and it could be higher. So TVA is moving in a direction to putting more nuclear plants back in operation. They've recently, in the last few years, they put Browns Ferry Unit Number 1 in operation. They're about to start, probably very soon, on the plant at Scottsboro, the Bellefonte plant. So actually, Watts Bar is another one right now that they're finishing up too. So TVA's system is near capacity. What we've seen is a demand on the TVA system that has grown, but actually through the mild weather and significantly from the economic conditions, we've seen the energy use go down somewhat. But energy rates are expected to go up about 17%. That's not the best news I could give you. Consensus said to bring rates down, but we definitely want to keep them as low as we can. But the environmental restrictions and being a good steward of our environment is probably going to impact that somewhat. All right, now a little bit about energy efficiency of your various appliances in your home. How much each appliance uses and where your power in your home is actually used is very important in order to help you figure out where you can save. Cooking is about 5%. Heating is 35%. Cooling is 20%. Water heating is 20%. Washer and dryer and dishwasher is 7%. Lighting and miscellaneous is 8%. Refrigerator is 5%. So, you know, my biggest thing around the house is make sure all the lights are off. But that's not a very big part of our energy use. We'll talk a minute about having good Energy Star appliances, things like that. They can help you keep those costs down too. But there's some things you can do that really don't cost very much at all. And that's to turn your heating system thermostat to 68 degrees.
Ooh, that's cold.
That's cold? Okay.
That's very warm.
I never understood my dad. Dad always tried to keep it real cool in the summer and real hot in the winter. But the older I get, the more I understand that. So if that kind of gives some insight too. But you can really save a lot though. If you keep your thermostat at 68 degrees, put an extra sweater on during the winter time, that saves you tremendously.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is best, to leave it on constant or turn it up and down according to the weather?
During the winter time you're asking, or summer, or just both? Okay.
Year round.
Probably keeping it where, if you try to keep where you think about 68 degrees as far as heating, and about 78 as far as cooling, that's going to be about your best.
Okay.
And if you're going to be gone for a significant amount of time, if you're going on a vacation to see a friend or relative, you're going to be gone, turn it back to what I call a setback temperature. Mine at home, now I've got mine on 4 different schedules during the day, and it goes back to a setback temperature. My wife teaches school, so it goes back to a setback temperature, and then it comes back at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and either heats or cools, whatever it needs to do. And then at night, all the house except for like the bedroom goes back to a setback temperature. So, but now, when I built my house, somebody said, well, how'd you figure out how to do
I
that?
don't have.
And I said, I got my 9-year-old son to watch a video, and he explained it to me.
So most of us don't have that option of the
Yeah.
setback.
How much do you set for your setback?
About 65, somewhere like that. Yeah, you don't want to get it too much. Back to your comment, ma'am, that if you set it back too much, and you're not going to be gone that long, you bring it back up, and your heat pump is thinking, well, I've got to get this up to a comfortable level that you want on your thermostat quickly. So somebody, when we were walking in, talked about, I can tell, it might have been you talking about when my auxiliary heat comes on, then I know it because, and if you were looking at your meter outside, that little wheel is really about to spin. I mean, we might need to come by and spray it with WD-40 that day or something like that. But it really will spin during that time. So if you don't, keep it at a reasonable level back, but yet kind of stage it up a little bit like that, and that way your heat pump will do it without your resistance heat.
Heat pumps are not warm. But they do not put out a warm air unless you kick the
Well,
auxiliary in.
The difference in a heat pump, and we do hear that pretty often.
It's cold there.
And what you do, if you blow in your hand, like that,
Yeah.
and you move it out, it doesn't feel warm at all. But if you move it up close, it feels warm. And that's the principle that a heat pump works on.
Well, we like to sleep when it's cool, so I've been jumping it down cold at night, and then, I turn it off, and then I turn the heat pump on and make the auxiliary come on. Is that gonna make my bill higher?
Your auxiliary coming on right there is definitely
But it
very
heats the
costly.
house up quicker than if I let the heat pump
It
come
does
on.
quick, but if you think about a 4-stack heater, if you had a 4-stack heater, 4 kW of heater that you used to have a long time ago, that may still have sometimes, like, to fill in around the house, that really uses a lot of energy. It makes it go pretty fast, makes your meter really turn. So probably if you didn't set it back quite as much and just kind of kept it where your heat pump would do it rather than your resistance heat, you'd save considerably on your bill.
Okay.
And that's something that, a lot of folks have a hard time understanding. But being a public utility, we're here to serve you, and we want you to conserve and use energy as wisely as you possibly can. That's part of our job as well, to keep those costs down, keep your utilization like it ought to be. And if you've got ways that you're losing on power by not being energy efficient, we want to help you find those things and get it where you save as much as you possibly can. So other ways you can, now my wife would argue with me on this one. Lower your water heater temperature to 120 degrees.
Oh, I'm like, no.
2 weeks ago, I got orders from on high to go down to the basement and turn the water heater up to at least 130, or else I was gonna have to wash all the dishes. Because the dishwasher was not doing the job it needs to be doing. So, anyway, some of that's recommendations, and you have to take it, for your personal preference. So turn lights off, televisions, computers when not in use, remove and recycle your second refrigerator. How many have a second refrigerator?
A little bitty
A
one.
little bitty one. Okay, that's smart.
Yeah,
You
we
got
had
one?
one in the,
Okay.
about 3 or 4.
They had several that were thrown away over here when they were doing some renovations several years ago. You remember that, Lorraine?
Yeah.
And so they sold them for like $5 just to get rid of them, so they wouldn't have to carry them to the landfill. I got one of those, and that probably cost me twice as much as what one of those little ones would have saved. One of those little refrigerators that are more energy efficient. Try to always look for the Energy Star. That's a designation that means they're energy efficient. So if you look for
I've
that,
got an
you'll
old
get
one I keep out in my garage, and it don't, the switch, something's wrong with it, don't never cut off unless I turn it off.
Well, part of what that is, probably your gaskets are old around the
No,
door.
it's not the gaskets, the switch, it just,
Oh, the switch?
the switch don't cut off.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I need something different in my garage.
So
And it gets
sometimes
hot in
it-
the summertime.
Sometimes the second refrigerator, and I've done the same thing. I got rid of that second refrigerator and got a little small one
Yeah, I
That,
put the
that
things
does
in
the
here.
job.
Things that I don't get in and out all the time. There's a little,
Right.
so I don't open its door as much as the regular fridge.
Uh-huh. Right. And keep your curtains open on the south side of the house. That's another way. You get heat gain during the wintertime, and closed on the north side during the day, because of course that's where your cold air, your cold wind is generally coming in from the north. All right, clean your refrigerator coils and set the temperature to 36 to 39 degrees, and on a freezer from 0 to 5 degrees. Has anybody got a fireplace?
No.
In 1993, I moved into a house, and when the first time I had a fireplace without an insert. The house I grew up in had an insert. And I would sit in front of that fireplace and I'd think, this is the most beautiful thing. And it's so warm. And I went back to the other end of the house and it was so cold. Because the damper was open and all the heat was going up that damper, right up in the flue. And when they size a heat pump, the old rule of thumb that's on a heat pump sizing is add 1 more ton to a heat pump if they have a fireplace. Because it's going, and that's a bigger heat pump, it's going to cost more to run, more energy to run, and cost more to buy it too. So, think about that. Adjust that damper down with just enough to get the smoke out. And if you get an insert, that probably works out a little better too, to be more efficient. Match the size of your pot and pan to the size on the stove burner. Cover them with lids when you're cooking. once a year, drain about a gallon of water out of your water heater. That'll help your water heater last longer and operate more efficiently. Air dry dishes instead of using dishwashers, heat drying option. I just bought a new dishwasher. Definitely always look for that Energy Star. Make sure I was really surprised and shocked what the difference is in the energy use of various dishwashers. And it goes that way with any appliance, refrigerators or whatever.